Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Coffee Chats with Dawn. Today, we are talking about portfolios. Ever since I started freelancing about 5-6 years ago, one of the most requested topics that I get from you guys and just other people in general to talk about is definitely portfolios. And so today, I want to try to give you guys some clarity, at least based on my experiences of freelancing. Also talk about things I've learned throughout the past couple of years on what to include in your portfolio, as well as what's not really necessary, and also what type of portfolio you should have. So let's get started. Obviously, a little disclaimer here is all of this is definitely based on my experiences as a freelancer. So it probably is the most applicable to people who are trying to go the freelance route. I can't speak for, the experiences of someone who's been in the corporate world. All of this is based on my experiences and things that I've encountered and learned in the past. So definitely the first question that I want to tackle right off the bat is how specific or general should my portfolio be? I'm personally not a fan of having a portfolio that's super generic. Perhaps that's because my portfolio is, I think, very specific. I'm a fan of gearing your portfolio towards brands or a specific field that you really want to work with. As a freelancer, you only have so much time and so many gigs that you can take on at a time or within a year. So as a result, I am just so not a fan of having a portfolio that feels super generic, because at the end of the day, you should know what field or what type of industry you want to be a part of as a designer. And so to give you an example, for me, ever since, I was going to college, I always had a lot of interest in beauty and fashion and just the lifestyle general industry. And so therefore, I found myself always gravitating towards making pieces that would kind of fall in line with the beauty or the fashion world. A lot of my designs would have the more feminine elements or a certain look. And I personally think that it is important to identify what field or what industry you want to go into, because that is essentially a good helping point to how you should sculpt and put together your portfolio. At the end of the day, I feel it's harder and harder for the more generic portfolios to stand out, because a lot of the times clients who come to me, they often come to me because they've already seen my portfolio and they feel like it fits what they want to accomplish with their brand. If your portfolio is super generic and kind of doesn't really have an edge or a unique tone or a style to it, it might not attract the right crowd that you deep down want to attract. So I think it's really important to know what you want. Write down a list of companies or a list of influencers or content creators that you want to work with. Have a lot of works that fall in line with that aesthetic. In short, I think you should know what type of works you want to create. And as a result, your portfolio should reflect that. And when your portfolio reflects a certain style or a certain look or a certain genre or industry that it's vibey, that vibe that is putting out, then it's more likely that you will be able to attract clients from that type of industry. And so therefore, to me, it's more important to have a portfolio that's a little bit more specific. And it's okay if not every single company on this planet or in this country is going to want to look at your portfolio and want to work with you. At the end of the day, that's not the goal, because it's not like you can take on companies from all sorts of fields and industries. I think the second question or common topic that I want to tackle is, should my portfolio have an X amount of works? I would say for someone who's just starting to freelance, I would say have at least a good 4 or 5 pieces, because I think it's a little bit hard to get clients if you have only like 2 works in your portfolio. Obviously, I could be wrong. Maybe like these 2 pieces that you have could be like the most amazing pieces. But usually for the most part, I think in order for a client to be able to really get your style and also how you approach a problem or like a situation with a client and how you resolve it through your work of art and design, I think it's safe to say you should have at least like 4 to 5 pieces, because I'm sure, like, you know, when I'm looking at other potential students' portfolios and stuff, I at least want to go through like a good 3 or 4. I also want to recommend that you don't put in too many pieces just to have a certain number of pieces. So for instance, let's say that your portfolio right now, you're like really happy with maybe 3 pieces, and then there's like 4 or 5 other pieces that you're kind of iffy about. I would say don't throw in those iffy pieces of work just to feel like you have a lot of work or work experiences. I think that sometimes having too many can not work to your advantage. It would be a disadvantage if not all 8 or 9 pieces you have in there are really strong. Always, at the end of the day, it's always going to be about quality over quantity. If it looks iffy to you, then it's probably going to look worse to the potential client, because they're always going to be looking at your work with like the hawk eye. You definitely don't want to take that risk and just throw in some extra pieces just to convince them that you've done more projects. At the end of the day, they want to feel secure and convinced that on average you produce really good work, and therefore you don't want to have pieces that might actually work against your chances. If you have like 9 or 10 pieces that are all pretty solid, keep them all in there. There's no reason to be too like critical of your work and take out pieces that are just doing fine. You know, they're attracting the right clients or people seem to really like it. Then I don't think you have to like narrow it down to just having like 4 or 5. I think the 4 or 5, maybe 5 to 6 marker that I'm giving is like a good starting off point when you're first trying to build out your portfolio. You know, I'm just trying to say that you don't need to have like 20 pieces from the start. How to organize your portfolio. I always do notice that people tend to like to put their work in chronological order. That always, to me, is kind of interesting, because for me, I always want to put my best works at the top. I always try to think of it as, I always like to think that when a potential client is looking at your portfolio, they're probably busy as hell and they probably don't have the time to look through like your 10 pieces. Even if they're all amazing, the word first impressions exists for a reason, and I feel like a lot of people just want to look at the first couple pieces on your website, on your portfolio, before making up their minds on if they want to work with you or not. So by that logic, like, I feel like it's the most important to put your best, strongest pieces at the top. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter if your best piece was like your oldest piece or your best piece wasn't like your newest piece. I don't think anyone cares. I think what they want to just see is your strongest work, and why not put your best foot forward? And what's so funny is, as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about my own portfolio right now, and ironically for me, not everything is in chronological order, but I guess I do feel like a lot of my more recent works are my better works, maybe just because the more I produce more work, the work tends to be better, or like maybe my skills have improved. So ironically speaking, I think now that I'm looking at my portfolio or thinking about it, I feel like a lot of my more recent works tend to be at the top, and maybe this is the reason why people sometimes get the whole chronological versus like your best pieces at the top like confused, is because I think a lot of people's newer works tend to be their best or better works. But if that's not the case, then you should always put your best work at the top. Do I need to put my resume and like my phone number and all of this on my portfolio? To be honest, I am so not a fan of putting your resume on your portfolio. I feel like resumes matter more for designers who are trying to apply for jobs in like the corporate environment, just because I know they tend to want to check like where you went to school, what type of previous internships or job experiences that you've had. I have never ever had a potential client ask me for my resume of any sorts, like brands like, I don't know, like Fenty Beauty or like the bigger corporate brands or ColourPop, like they have never asked to see my portfolio, and I don't think I've ever had my resume on my portfolio either, just because to me that's irrelevant. I mean, I'm sure it's nice to see like what type of internships or whatever you've had in the past, but at the end of the day, like the deciding factor there is your work, and they want to see your best work. They want to see that you have the right skill sets to produce the type of work, the type of designs that they want to see. And that's all that matters. So to me, like having your resume as like, I don't know, like your front page, landing page, like banner or something, like that makes no sense to me. I don't think you should include it. And it really shouldn't be a factor when it comes to a client deciding if they want to work with you or not. Something that is actually really important for you to have on your portfolio website is contact info. So I don't think you should have your phone number on there, just because you don't know who's gonna stumble upon your website, and you don't want anything that's a little bit too personal or too close to you out there just on the internet. I love having like not only my email, my work email of course, but I like having a contact form on my website because I feel like it's the safest way to communicate with a potential client. On my, DLD.studio website, I don't even have my like work email on there because to me that's a little bit more private. I only use my personal work email with people who I actually work with. But for potential clients and all kinds of people wanting to inquire about stuff, whether it's working with us, I want them to go through my hello email first. So on my website, I have my hello email listed out, and then I also have a contact form underneath it so that, if people do want to make an inquiry and they're a little bit lazy to click on the email, and they can just reach out to me directly through my website. So the contact form includes subject, like what's your name, and then just to vet out like what type of inquiry it is, I have a little drop down where people can select like, is this like inquiry to hire us? Is it something where you are interested in collaborating with us? Like, what is the nature of your inquiry? And I think this is, to me, is really helpful when I'm going through my hello email, because I can quickly figure out like which emails are related to what subject, and I can kind of group them all and get back to people a little bit more efficiently. Do I need to have a physical portfolio? No, because I don't have one. Pretty much every time I talk to a potential client, maybe also like especially in 2020, no one ever wants to meet up with you and look through like a printed portfolio anymore. That time is just done, especially in the freelance world. Now everything is digital. Of course, like any type of like physical packaging or print type of work that I've done for other clients, I always do keep like a copy of it, so that if I'm talking to someone through Zoom and let's say it's like a potential packaging gig, I like to whip out like the boxes or the bags or whatever type of packaging I designed. I like to show it to people just to be able to be like, hey, like I actually made this. People have also asked me if they need to have a online portfolio, like a website portfolio, as opposed to just having like an Instagram profile. I guess it's not really necessary if you want to just have like an Instagram portfolio. I think at this point in life and the world that we live in, like Instagram pretty much can offer you everything that your digital portfolio can offer you. Now Instagram, especially if you have like a business account or something, it allows people to be able to email you through the app and get in touch with you. They can always slide into your DMs. So I guess it's really not necessary. But for me, I just like the idea of having like a www dot. I consider Instagram as like a marketing tool almost. And I feel like it's so important for you to have like an Instagram portfolio, because people are not going to be able to discover just your website through Googling. They're probably not going to be able to just look up your name because they don't know what your name is. And I think on Instagram, there's a lot of really great tools that you could use to really market yourself and share your work with the world. I think thanks to the age of digital marketing, it's become really easy and accessible for all these types of artists and creatives and designers around the world to share their work for free, and also like get noticed for free through using the right kind of hashtags or tagging the right accounts, getting featured on like a bigger art showcasing some kind of platform. Yeah, I don't think you really need to have anything else besides like an online portfolio, as well as maybe like 1 or 2 social media accounts of your choice also where you can share your portfolio. The more platforms you can display your work on, I guess the chances of your work getting noticed by someone who may want to work with you tends to be higher. So yeah, that's pretty much all the tips and pointers that I had for the topic of portfolios today. I hope you guys found this coffee chat helpful. And let me know in the comments if I missed anything, or if you guys have any suggestions for next week's coffee chat. I would love to hear any thoughts or questions or anything like that that you guys have. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!